Hello, hello, gorgeous souls. It is wonderful to be here with you. And I'm really, really excited about this 5 day challenge and what we're going to be covering over the 5 days of really diving deep on what the 5 steps are in order to have you overcome burnout, eliminate exhaustion, and regain energy, clarity, focus, passion, and supercharge your life again. This is one of the most important things as a woman, and what I'm truly, truly excited to share with you here today, and obviously as the week goes by as well. And we'll be diving deep into each of these particular things. But before we do, let's just kind of kick off with who this is actually for. Because many of you might be like, oh, I'm not sure if this relates to me or resonates with me. So let's see who this is actually for. And it's for busy and dedicated women that care about being the best version of themselves. And so if that is you, you know that stepping up, taking care of your energy is going to be vitally important, because when we're fatigued, when we're stressed, when we're exhausted, it's totally impacting every single area of our life. And if we're really honestly true to ourselves and honest with ourselves, you will know how your energy really does impact how you show up with your kids, how you be able to relate to them, your level of patience, your amount of emotional presence and relatability with people, or your level of empathy for people at the time, obviously is all impacted by our level of exhaustion, or how much energy that we've got left in the bucket on a day-to-day basis. And, it's really understanding and knowing that having your full health, passion and energy is absolutely your superpower, and how that impacts you, certainly from an alignment perspective with the law of attraction, or as I like to say, the law of reflection. So obviously we're going to be covering this over the next couple of days, so I'll just skip past that. My promise to you is the step-by-step strategy, which covers these 5 steps, which we're going to be covering over these 5 days. And each day, as I talk about one particular thing, the challenge is to really embrace that for that evening and for the following day, and really sit with that and really allow that message to sit deeply with you to be able to make these changes within your life as well. So it really is a step-by-step strategy in order to be able to bring you back to your long-term health, focus, and energy and passion. And this is all about being sustainable in the world, not just a quick magic bullet fix or anything else. So really important to know, it's not a quick fix magic bullet. It will take time, energy, and dedication and commitment. Neither my results or my clients' results are typical. So I'll be talking about some of my clients that have got exceptional results and how they've done that by applying these 5 steps as well, and how they've been committed to the process, and they've taken radical responsibility, which we'll be talking more about in day 2, for their health and change things for the better, even with a medical diagnosis. So if you're thinking, I've got an autoimmune disease, or I've been medically diagnosed with whether that's clinical depression, or whether that is an actual health condition or an autoimmune disease, all of these things that I'm going to talk about over these next 5 days is absolutely going to help you with this. So the people that you're going to hear about are women exactly like you, that are busy, successful women that have a big caring heart, that care deeply about others, but that also value being the best version of themselves, and know that their health is an absolute priority in order to be able to achieve this. They know that their health is absolutely paramount to being able to make confident decisions. This is one of the effects of burnout, is really feeling a sense of kind of not feeling confident to make those clear decisions, or not feeling clear in your own mind. If you've ever experienced total exhaustion, fatigue, burnout, you'll know that brain fog and a feeling of numbness often accompanies that. And this is one of those key things in really being able to step forward and being able to make these decisions and get your confidence back to know what is the right choice for you to be able to put behind, to have the energy to put behind your goals and your dreams and move forward in your life. Your health results, or lack thereof, are up to you. Often we can think that it's up to the hospitals or the doctors, and we can often give our own power away by receiving a diagnosis or by being told something and accepting that as ultimate truth. And I really want you to recognize that and to stand in your own power around it. Certainly, I know when I was going through burnout, and one of the doctors said to me, your bloods are completely fine. It must be all in your head, let's do a mental health check. And I knew that, yes, whilst I was going through some mental health stuff because of the burnout, but it was because I was physically exhausted. It's very hard to think positively when you are physically exhausted. And I know that you'll know that's true. When you wake up, you feel like rubbish in your body. It's really hard to get into a good mood to get started for the day. And I knew exactly what was going on, and thank goodness. But it did break my heart to hear that, because I definitely could have gone down that path of being put on antidepressants and everything else had I not stood in my own power. And not that there's any judgment or there's anything wrong with any of that. Sometimes having a bridge can really help, but it is really understanding and knowing yourself very clearly. And I feel passionately about this because I feel so many women don't understand what's going on for them when they do go through physical exhaustion and burnout, and don't understand how it contributes in such a really detrimental way to our emotional and mental well-being at the time. Like, it really does impact it in a very significant way. So it's remembering you hold the power through your power of choice and what you decide to do. So if you've ever been through burnout, you'll know that waking up with brain fog, feeling exhausted and dreading the day is pretty standard. It doesn't feel good on any level. And I'm certainly, not making light of that. It is one of the things that is hardest, I think, to deal with burnout, is having that foggy brain where it is so difficult to just actually think clearly. Often we lose confidence in ourselves and our decisions. We can feel like we just need to be more organized or more motivated. We can feel very overwhelmed with the simplest of tasks and feeling that there's just not enough time. And, obviously wanting to withdraw so much socially, there can be sometimes an emotion of shame or a feeling of shame or guilt attached to when we feel burnt out, or not feeling that we're available to be there for others in the way that perhaps that we used to. Often, yelling at our kids or finding ourselves very impatient with our kids can be another symptom of burnout as well. Feeling that we, are just procrastinating. Again, it's that loss of clarity, that loss of knowing what you need to get done in a day, but also feeling so overwhelmed because you don't have the energy to do what you need to do. So we can very often end up on the phone, getting lost in that Facebook scroll hole. Loss of libido is, again, a huge symptom of burnout. Having restless, interrupted sleep. So when you feel tired, but wired, so you're laying there, you absolutely physically exhausted, and yet your brain will not stop and let you actually fall asleep. Or perhaps you fall straight asleep. Perhaps you're like I was when I was going through burnout, and waking up between 1 and 3 a.m. and just cannot get back to sleep at that point. Finding yourself reaching for sugar or high carb or high fat foods, especially at night. Now, you may find that this happens more around your cycle, when your cycle is getting close to starting. However, when we're going through burnout, you'll find that this happens nearly every night, where you're really craving a lot of sugar because you're feeling exhausted and the body's craving that quick hit of energy. And often digestive symptoms, again, can be another huge symptom of knowing that we are, in that fight-flight response, where the body is inhibiting the digestive system. Because let's face it, the body does not care about digesting breakfast if it's getting chased by the tiger. And what I mean by that is, if we are living day to day, stressed out, fearful of everything that's going on, your body cannot feel that it can rest and digest and rejuvenate itself. And this is why ongoing healing is near impossible when you're going through burnout, and when there's so much adrenaline going through your system from pushing and striving, or trying to motivate yourself every single day for all the things that you feel that you have to, you need to, and you should get done. Really, really exhausting. But worst of all, often we can feel that there's no way that we can keep going the way that we are. And the reason for this is not because of all those other things. It is because we actually haven't made these shifts. And these shifts are what I'm going to be speaking about over these next 5 days. So it's really, really exciting. So once you make them, you're going to be able to wake up each morning with a crystal clear mind and be able to get into your day with absolute complete confidence, trusting yourself again, feeling in alignment, feeling inspired to take action on your life, on the real projects that matter to you. Of course, this is essential. Procrastination, doubt, fear, and worry are a thing of the past. You feel deeply connected and in love with your intimate partner again, and you've noticed, this whole new level of intimacy and communication emerge. I know one of the hardest things for me, again, with that socialization and that shutdown and that withdrawing, often we can do that with our intimate partner as well and shut them out and become very, very distant and very emotionally cold. I know for me, my body went into complete oversensitivity, meaning that if I was touched, it actually felt like razor blades on my skin. Now, I'm a very, very sensitive soul. I am definitely an empath as well. And so, like the more that our nervous system gets triggered and triggered and triggered, being able to calm and soothe the nervous system is absolutely so, so, so important to overcome and heal our burnout. And that's why when we're healing our burnout, or when we've healed our burnout, you'll open up at a much greater level to your partner again, which is always a joy for them. Often we can get in very unbalanced, either masculine or unbalanced feminine energy, which means we either become the martyr, the victim, or we're kind of like get the F out of the way energy. If we're in unbalanced masculine, it's really unresourceful, and often it's attached to deep anger and deep resentment. So it's really important, again, to know that, yes, when you heal your burnout, when you stop giving from an empty bucket, you get to step back into your feminine flow, that beautiful energy again. Being able to do more of the things that you love and spending time with your family. Now we're putting energy back into the bucket and feeling so much better, doing creative things, tapping back into what you love and what brings you joy. You're naturally and powerfully influencing your children. This is a huge one. Like I mentioned, the law of attraction is actually the law of reflection. Often when our kids are being naughty, or there's a lot going on with them, they're often our biggest reflectors in, hey, something's going on with mum. I often say mums are the barometers in a household. If you're doing well, generally the rest of the household's doing well. If you're not doing well, often there's a lot of other stuff kind of going on within the family, and often our kids can be very reflective of that behavior. I know when my kids used to have a big wobble or something would go on for them, the first place I would look is myself, because until I'm stable, they're picking up on my vagus nerve the whole time. That vagus nerve is how we unconsciously recognize if somebody's stressed or there's something that we need to be guarded or worried about, and we can sense this in others, and it's done on a very visceral sense, meaning we're picking up not only on the energy, but on very, very subtle non-verbal language of what's going on with the other person. So often our kids can become overly anxious, particularly if they're seeing mum or dad very, very stressed out as well. And again, this is not to induce further guilt, it's just to bring awareness and to really understand that you get to influence your kids in such a powerful way, in such a positive way, once you've healed your burnout. Best of all, you'll love who you are again and treat yourself with the love, the care, and the respect that you absolutely deserve as well. So definitely, so important. And I really just want to touch briefly on who I am, just in case you haven't met me before. So my name's Sal Holden. It's lovely to be here with you today. My business is Abundant Heart Coaching, and I'm an intuitive life coach and kinesiologist. I've worked with thousands of people over the last 11 years. I was just working this out the other day. I'm like, how long has it been? So it's 11 years, helping them really get to the deep core reasons of what's blocking them or or stopping them from their health, their happiness, and their well-being, helping them overcome that and step through that in order to thrive again in their lives. I have international, national, and interstate clients, and my specialty is definitely working with fatigue and burnout. I'm very passionate about it because I think, in today's world, especially after COVID and lockdown, and with the continual reoccurrence of this, I feel that this keeps triggering people at a deeper level. I think it's a huge, powerful time in our history of humanity where there's a lot of healing that needs to be done in order to bring those traumas to the surface, recognize and confront our fears in order to raise our level of consciousness and step into our greater level of love and abundance for humanity as well. So it's a very, very huge, acute time, and particularly anybody that's extra sensitive. I personally invested over 270,000 in courses, education and mentoring. I don't say that to brag or to say, how wonderful I am or anything else. It's just really showing you the level of commitment and the passion that I have in this particular field of really understanding the body and the mind and the soul connection, why the mind thinks the way that it does, how we can overcome our suffering and step into living, a greater life and really thriving again in so many ways, and also understanding that metaphysical perspective of what's going on with our body, and often how our body is giving us clues all the time as to what's actually really going on a mental and emotional level. I've also been referred to by my clients as someone that people should go to when no one else can figure out what's wrong with you. So look, jumping in, discovering the 5 shifts, I'm not going to go into this in great depth today, simply because I really want to get to the main content as well. But look, really briefly, I had been through so many different challenges in my life. I had built my business up to a 6-figure income, was celebrating that. I felt amazing in myself. But then I noticed that it was taking more and more energy to motivate myself. I was noticing that I was pushing myself more and more in order to try and get through the day. I noticed more and more brain fog showing up. I noticed I needed naps in between seeing clients. At my lunch break, I would need to literally have a nap in order to get through the rest of the afternoon. And I realized that underneath all of that, there was some unhealed trauma that I'd experienced in my former relationship, even though I thought that I'd done plenty of work on that. But what I realized was at a deeper level, I was still healing because I hadn't had previously had the emotional space and capacity to be able to deal with that. But also, I was a single mum at the time. I was, building my own business and continuing to grow that. I was looking after my 2 girls, full responsibility for them. And in short, I noticed, and this is again what I'm going to talk about a lot on day 2, a huge feeling of responsibility for everybody's well-being and everybody's happiness. And I felt like I needed to be there for everybody, and I wasn't listening to my body. Hence why I needed to really find some answers, and I needed to find a way to get off that hamster wheel because I was very, very desperate at that point. I felt very, very frightened because my whole family's income rested on my shoulders. I needed to find a way out of this. And some of my clients were also experiencing a lot of these same symptoms. Some were getting good results, some weren't. And I wanted to figure out what the difference was because it was so vitally important to me that all of my clients got exceptional results. And of course, I wanted to overcome this for myself as well. So today and over the next 5 days, this is what I'm going to be sharing with you. And I'm really excited to be doing that. So there's 5 key shifts that you must make in order to totally free yourself from feeling burnt out and drained to totally crushing it with passion, energy, regaining who you are again, having total focus for your business or your career. And I'm going to walk you through all 5 of them this week, but only one of them on this session. So let's jump into it. The first one is listening to your body. Now, this is absolutely essential. It is something that is so key to our health and to our well-being. And often I find, like I said or mentioned before, that one of the biggest symptoms of burnout is feeling numb in your body, which means that you have repressed and suppressed how you're feeling for such a long time that you have unconsciously tuned out signs of exhaustion, signs of fatigue, not perhaps, eating well or eating the right foods at the right times. So sometimes we can suppress our need for even hunger or thirst when we're so busy, when we feel so responsible, when we're so focused on what's going on for everybody else. We are often neglecting what's going on for us. And again, like I mentioned, we will definitely touch on that or dive deep into that in tomorrow's session. But for today's session, it is really about listening to your body. The number one reason why you're feeling overwhelmed, fatigued, and burnt out is because you've learned to ignore how you really feel and what your body is really trying to tell you. Your body is the messenger for your soul. It is consistently and constantly giving you feedback of what needs to shift or change on an emotional, mental, physical, or even spiritual level within your life in order to be happy, abundant, and sustainable in the world. Your emotions and how you feel in your body are giving you guidance, step-by-step guidance of where you're pushing your limits, of where you're not respecting your own boundaries. That is often through anger. So if you're experiencing huge of anger, often that can be that you are betraying your own boundaries of what is and what isn't okay for you. And I totally get it. There's no judgment around that. For years, I lived in anger and I didn't even know what my own boundaries were. I was so enmeshed in everybody else's energy because I was so sensitive and such an empath that I couldn't distinguish what was my feelings and what was somebody else's feelings. Therefore, I was just trying to fix the whole lot. I couldn't decipher or discern what was mine and what was somebody else's. So it all felt like mine. But when we're enmeshed in other people's energy and we cannot discern, it is really difficult to draw the boundaries, because how do you say no to something that actually feels like yours, even when it's not? And by that, I mean, when you notice that somebody else is suffering, somebody else is in pain, and you're experiencing that as your own pain, of course you want to get out of that experience. So by you taking responsibility and neglecting your own personal boundaries is often a way that we can actually get out of that pain. This is why listening to our body is absolutely essential, because if you're getting enmeshed and have really poor boundaries, or don't even know what your own boundaries are, then that is absolutely critical to start listening to your own body. Chances are you've been taught not to listen to your body from a very young age during the socialization process. And that doesn't mean that your parents were the worst people in the world or anything like that. I don't want to say that. And I also want to make note of, obviously, there were people and have been many people that have gone through significant childhood trauma as well. And I just want to take a moment to acknowledge that. And often it is a coping mechanism to completely disassociate from the body when we've gone through significant trauma. It's a way of dealing with it or coping with it in that moment, and it is pro-survival in that moment. Yet you can see how detrimental that continues to be when we're no longer living in that same situation as a young child. To ignore our body signs and symptoms. And as women, again, our instincts can be injured from such a young age. And I certainly experienced this in my own life, where I would not experience an immediate rage reaction or anger reaction even when somebody had violated in a large way one of my boundaries. It would generally show up about 48 hours later. I would become so angry and I'd be like, why am I so angry about that now? It didn't bother me at the time. I can't really understand this. But this is because when our instincts have been injured through us being wrong, or, not having our needs met, or not having our voice heard, or being validated in our own emotional feelings, we often shut that down, shut that off, push them down, repress our feelings, repress how we're actually feeling in our body, in a way to cope with that situation, or to be what we needed to be in order to be loved, accepted, and fit in with our birth family at a very young age. And it really trains the body, or trains the mind, to disassociate from what's actually going on in the body. And this leads to very, very detrimental things happening later on, because we've got no warning system then. It's kind of like having no fuel tank gauge on your car. You kind of just keep driving and driving and driving, and then you wonder why the car stops or why the car's not working, because you had no fuel gauge letting you know that, hey, the car's getting empty. Or it's kind of like sticking a big happy face over that. And I think I say that in the next page anyway. So it's like sticking a big happy face over the empty fuel tank and just pretending everything's okay, and sooner or later the car stops. And don't let that be you with your body. So the messages will get louder and louder until you pay attention and listen. The body loves us so much that it really, really tries to help us, because it is a messenger from our soul, and it is trying to get our attention to let us know something is off, something is not okay. So in our society, productivity has been the cornerstone of typically how we're perceived for our value, how much we get done in a day. This is all due to the Industrial Revolution. It has almost everyone pushing and striving, inducing daily stress from a place of fear, lack, and scarcity. Not to mention all the ways that we're indoctrinated to believe that we need to be superwoman or we're not enough. We've taken on so many unconscious beliefs about who we are and what we need to do in order to be loved, accepted, fit in, and belong, that we are no longer living true to our core essence. And if you are tight across your shoulders here, or you have tightness or rigidness in your body, it means you have been living in masculine energy. Masculine energy is doing energy, and there's nothing wrong with it. It's just when it's not balanced with feminine energy, which is all about receiving and about being and about appreciating. It's like eating, the strawberry or the mango that's just delicious and wonderful, or pouring our creative heart out and really being in touch with who we are from a soul level. When you have neglected that and not allowed all of that to be expressed and to be felt, then we end up living in this very harsh, rigid, and you'll notice like a harshness to your own face, or perhaps drawn lines on your face. And I don't mean that in an awful way, but we can become very harsh and very rigid in our body when we're living in masculine energy. Pretending you're okay is just like putting a smiley face on top of the empty fuel gauge in your car, just what I said before. So being a great role model for our kids and for everybody else around us means taking care of you first. Your loved ones and children are watching you every single day. You cannot sustainably give from an empty bucket, and your body is letting you know that. Things will continue to spiral with negativity, anger, and irritability. It's so much harder to focus and be productive when you're exhausted. This massively impacts our work quality and creates damaging situations in relationships. So when this shift is made, you'll notice a positive influence on those around you. You'll be clear-minded and know exactly what your true priorities are, not getting through the to-do list, but what is truly aligned for you. Getting more done in a day with seemingly less effort, because you're no longer in resistance, or I have to, I need to, I should, I've got to get all these things done. You'll be aligned with what it is that truly feels right for you. You'll glow with the true confidence and self-belief that comes from having vibrant health again and really loving who you are and how you're showing up. I know for me personally, living in anger caused me so much self-hatred. I literally hated who I was being and how I was showing up. Another thing is you will no longer be living in fear of not being enough. This often has us striving and pushing. You'll reclaim your inner power and be a magnet for what you want, rather than exhausting yourself through the striving and pushing every single day. This is my beautiful client, Kerry. Before she worked with me, she was experiencing severe symptoms of fibromyalgia, complex PTSD, burnout, and stress. And she often had to take many days off work when she had a flare up, and felt extremely fatigued and exhausted majority of the time. She was on a higher level of medication. She found it difficult to exercise, as it often triggered major flare-ups and severe pain with the fibromyalgia. She was tired and exhausted and felt that she had tried absolutely everything over the years and nothing had worked. And it was impacting her everyday happiness, and particularly her ability to enjoy her life and have the energy for her loved ones. After working with me, Kerry's fibromyalgia symptoms had reduced by up to 80%. She also lost 12 kilos in the first 8 weeks, and she was no longer taking any of her medication and couldn't believe how energetic, healthy, and vibrant that she felt. And now she absolutely understands through going through these 5 shifts and really being able to understand how unresolved emotions and past traumas were literally sending huge messages to her body in the form of fibromyalgia, from keeping all of that pain inside. Fibromyalgia is a very, very painful condition of the body, and she now knows how to clear these emotions, traumas, and beliefs to be able to support her body back to continued improvement with her health, energy, and personal happiness and well-being. And Kerry also did a testimonial or a case study for me as well, which I'll share actually underneath this, where she talks a lot more in depth about her situation and what her experience was as well. So I'll pop that below in the unit section as well. And really looking forward to checking back in with you tomorrow, kicking off with our second major shift that needs to be made in order to overcome burnout and to supercharge your life again. So thank you so much for watching today. It's been great being here with you. And of course, if this is you, please reach out, send me a PM. If you're experiencing symptoms of burnout, exhaustion, and you know that you've been on that hamster wheel and you do not know how to get off, and you're just hoping and praying, fingers crossed, that you'll figure it out one day, please don't do that to yourself. As we progress during the week, you'll see how important it is to be able to take care for yourself and to value yourself. And one of the major reasons why women get so burnt out is that we're used to being the caretaker. We're used to putting everybody else's needs first, and we continue to put ourselves last. And it really does result in just so much burnout, exhaustion, and fatigue. It also puts us into disempowerment in the unbalanced feminine by being the martyr, by thinking, we've got to take care of everybody else before we take care of ourselves. And it is, if you think about what you want for your children, particularly if you have girls, or if you don't have children, maybe have nieces or other loved ones. I have 2 girls, they're 18 and 20, and it made me really start to shift and change and to understand, my gosh, it's so important for me to, at least make my needs equal, if not just as important as everybody else's, because my girls are learning from me. And it would break my heart to see my girls overgiving to the point where they were so burnt out and so exhausted that they weren't able to function, and that they didn't feel good in themselves, or weren't able to live a happy life as a result of that fatigue and exhaustion. And it's something that I'm so passionate about, because we are literally role modeling for our girls, what is the norm. And I know many of us had mothers that were very much in that martyrdom. I know my mum bent over backwards for absolutely everyone and everything. And very sadly, she passed from lung cancer at the age of 59. Now, I'll go into that a little bit more further down the track as the days progress. But it is really, really, really essential to know that taking care of you is absolutely imperative, and it is the best thing that you can ever gift your family with. So have an amazing rest of your day. Loads of love to you all. Thanks for being on here, and I will see you tomorrow in Tuesday's next challenge day. So today's challenge is really tapping into you, sitting with your body. How do you really, really feel? This may be a little bit confronting for you, particularly if you've disassociated for such a long time, but I can promise you, until you get to the truth of that, we don't make a new decision, because we keep pretending, we keep repressing, until finally the body just goes, enough is enough. And I do not want you to reach that point. So sending you loads of love. Tune into your body, sit, create 5 or 10 minutes as a minimum of checking in with your body, feeling into how you're really feeling emotionally, mentally, physically, and even spiritually in your connection to yourself. Have a great day, guys. Bye.